by step, and then then uh, went on to when the opportunity came. Then it was decision time to see where you can make it and where you can't.
What are the, I'm sure, for an example, I also play football. Okay. Now that due to work schedules, not playing football professionally, but yes, I played a little football. So
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of, till my graduation, I was like, I can still make it. I can still make it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure you would have faced a lot of difficulties, a lot of things, which would have been made up a turning point. Like you said, your coach actually called you, your parents, and,
Hmm.
introduced and told your parents, but that was not it, right? That was not when you actually made it. That was when you actually started. So what are the difficulties, what are the situation that you faced during the whole your career up till now?
I think there were different stages and different. There was always when I grew up, there was always whether I'm going to leave my studies, whether I'm going to be able to manage both my education and football, because obviously I came from a very educated family. My dad's an engineer, my mom's a CA. So the understanding that I always had was, as long as you go to school, you keep your grades up, all of that will permit you to play. So I think that was one of the first stages where I kind of juggled between studies and football. And obviously, the Indian curriculum is such where it is full day school till 3 o'clock. Post that, then I had to go and make myself available for training sessions, coming back, doing homework, getting to bed on time to do the same thing 5, 6 times a week. Um, that was a turning point because obviously it took quite a lot of discipline. It took a lot of sacrifice in terms of my social life, going out with friends, hanging around in the evening. Um, at that point, I didn't have that much knowledge and understanding and awareness about food and nutrition, which if I had the guidance and somebody to tell me like, this is good for you, this will help you in the future, it would have really helped me. But I think that is something now when I look back, that is something that I help the kids with, the help the upcoming athletes who I can help in whatever way I can. Um, the next other hurdle that came along was as I grew older, whether to go abroad. There was a big question when I went to Leicester. I trained with the team for two months with their U16 and U14 squad, and their take was, you kind of have to come to UK and stay there, and then we'll integrate you into the U16 and into the U18s. But uh, as a minor at 13, we can't do anything for you if you're based out of India. So I think that was a major decision, and that would have been a turning point if my family decided to leave India and go to the UK. But at that point, as a family, or also as my dad's business was struggling, we were not doing that well. And also the question of if we decided to go to the UK, how were they going to pursue their profession and earn money for a living? So I ended up coming back to India, staying in India, continue to play at the lower levels, at the under 18s, under 16s, for the state team for Maharashtra. Went on to play with Mahindra and TFA in Jharkhand. Um, and then the next question was, post my 12th, what am I going to do? I was already in TFA. So then it was a question of, okay, where can we send him where he doesn't give up his education? So that's when me going to US came about. And then I was there for about 6 years. So I think one of my most educational periods as an athlete, as just as an entire person, just expanded my horizon completely.
Oh, great, great. We have actually heard a lot about you with respect to, from the time that Journey Beyond Words actually released and, said that, there's a footballer coming in. A lot of people have messaged our professional development team. So what
Okay.
is that you would actually tell the people, who all are over here, okay, or who all might watch after the session also, okay, that if they want to start a career, when do they think that, this is it, then this is something that they need to go ahead with?
I think there's no definite age. I would really say in sports, because your growth phases in terms of football are really when you're young, so between 8 and 15, 16. But in terms of professional career, if you say when a player is offered a professional contract, that is majorly between say 17, 18, 19 and post that. So you can't say, a kid at 8 years, he is going to make it at a professional level or he is not. It really depends on his growth and development right from the age of 8, the coaches he's under, whether he can grow as a player. Does he have the experience? Is he gaining the experience? Is he being exposed to good competition? Because you know how it is. For my example, when I was in school, I thought football was really easy because I was the best player in the school. So I took it for granted, like, I can play anywhere. And, then you start dreaming like, oh yeah, you can play in EPL. And at that time, everything was EPL. There was no ISL. But
Correct.
realistically, for us as Indians and Asians to be playing there, it takes a lot more than just being the stud in your school or being the best player in your school. And when I went on to play Maharashtra State, when I went on to play in Mahindra or Jharkhand in TFA, where there were players from all over the country, uh, that's where you face your real competition, or that's where you understand where you stand. So even now, when I play in my colony, I play a lot of pickup games, and now turf is the new trend. Um, so a lot of players come up and want to know what to do, but uh, they have to explore and be willing to go outside of the city, go to another state, play for another team. Um, and it's not a given. It really depends on how the player grows. So typically, the three things that are involved in making it a professional or in the professional field, according to me, are the player, the coach, which means the coaching you get, and the facilities that you have. So to work with, say, if you have a ground, whether you want to invest in your own weight machine, in your own ankle weights, or TheraBands, these kind of things which you can afford and which you can do without being part of a big club or a big organization that gives you like ice bath and the top level of gyms and all of that. So what can you do to develop yourself to get to that level? And yes, when you get to a certain age, when you get to that competition, obviously if you're playing state, if you're playing for a tough a good club in the I League or in the ISL, you're going to be approached by agents, you're going to be approached by teams. That's when you can market yourself, and when you can hold yourself in good stead and say, okay, I can go for a trial now and I can perform there. At age maybe 12, 13, you can't predict saying that at 16, I'll be in so and so club. Yes, you can
Correct.
dream, you can believe in yourself. I'm not saying that don't do that, but in terms of growth and in terms of where you will be at a certain age, it's just that path that you have to follow.
Correct, correct. Thank you so much. So, see, for an example, you also told me about under 14, under 16, about Leicester as well. So,
Mhm.
just want to understand, how is the difference, playing over here in India and playing out there? What is the
Uh,
difference?
Between India and the US,
Yeah.
so I would say the US is very structured in terms of how they organize things, even right from the basic school level. They have high school, they have JV, then they have JC, then they go on to have university. And even within that system, there is Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. So it's very organized. And then, say you are a player at Division 3, at whether it's high school or JV or at university. If you're doing really well, you have the potential to do better, you can always transfer into a better college, a better high school, where then you're playing Division 2 or you're playing Division 1. Um, if you're really that good at Division 1, Division 2, you're going to get a sports scholarship, which means your education is paid for. Um, you will get also additional benefits of, maybe the coach will pay for your flight. He will stick out his neck for you to skip classes. So it's very structured. And there, a student athlete, as they call it, because you're a student and you're playing for one of the university teams or you're playing for the high school team, you get priority over a regular student because you're juggling between dual careers, which means you're pursuing academics as well as sports. Whereas
Correct.
your regular student, he's just going to school and probably has a part-time job which he wants to do. But in terms of the university structure, you are given priority because you have another commitment that you are providing your service and your talent to the university. So I think in that perspective, a lot of kids see education as completing their education through sports because they get scholarship, or they get some money waived off from their tuition fees, and that helps them because they don't have to pay that. Even if it's just playing till college level or playing till university level, they've kind of they don't have to pay anything from their pocket
Correct.
through high school or through varsity or through JC or through university. So that really helps them. And then in terms of facilities, so the way it works there is, if you have a team, say you have a team in baseball or you have a team in softball or soccer, it is mandatory that you have a field to uh, allow training of your players. So you're not allowed to go to another school or another park and say, okay, I'm going to rent out that place and then have my team train there. You can't have a team. So it's simple. If you don't have a soccer ground, you can't have a soccer team. If you don't have a baseball field, you can't have a baseball team. So that's how it works. Obviously, they're much more spaced out in terms of area, so they can have that structure in every college, in every school, all of that. In India, it's everything's compact. So uh, I mean, space is an issue. So you can't say you're going to have here, it's like one field, you play everything on one field. Um, so even in facility wise, they are encouraging sports. In terms of training, the athletes have a completely separate gym. So the regular students go to a basic gym. The athletes have kind of like a CrossFit, and they have all the maybe some don't have the latest, but they have little advanced kind of uh, equipments for the athletes. So again, you're giving a kind of special treatment to the athletes. So people want to be sports people, or people want to study and play a sport.
Great. As much as what I understand is, the basic thing is, from it starts from the grassroots level, and
Mhm.
the infrastructure that is out here needs to be much more updated, like our mobile phone that comes up after every few days we get an update. So we'll
Yeah.
have to keep on updating a little, because as much as we see, ISL has been launched, just a few years back we didn't had anything correct with regards to that. So we are getting updated with regards to from step by step. So I guess we'll see a lot of people have that question in their mind, and a lot of people are making assumptions. But what do you think,
Uh, Adil, I think we are losing you. Kuch network.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm
I
really
missed that
sorry.
question.
So yeah, so how a lot of people have actually DM me as well, that how long is FIFA World Cup for us, as an Indian? What do you think, how much long do we have to actually support the EPL teams, and the teams that are out there, and how long do we have to wait?
See, I don't know that answer. Obviously, it's
So
a it's a
as an
long journey.
assumption, according to
Um,
you.
I would say maybe another 20, 25 years. But it really all depends on the development and the growth that we can provide our young talents with. I think they did a really good job with the under 17 squad. They
Correct.
would, I mean, if you watch them, they were training for 3 years. They traveled to Portugal, they traveled to Spain, to London, played games, and got that exposure. They were training together as a team for those 3 years, which obviously meant that they were in sync with each other. They understood each other. They were all at the same level. So I think the only problem is we do it with one part and we leave the rest. So okay, we've done it with that under 17 group. Now they've been integrated. Almost 90% of those players from that under 17 are playing in the ISL or I League right now. But what happens
Correct.
to the next level? What are we doing with the U15s, the U13s, the U10s? Are we giving them the same kind of facilities that we gave those under 17 players? So that has to be done on a consistent basis. And obviously, we need good coaches, which means either in India, we have to follow a specific pattern where we say everybody is going through this, and these are the only coaches who are qualified enough, who have the experience, um, who can coach these teams, not just because you've done the license and you've completed it or you don't have any playing history, whatever. I think you need to set a certain benchmark. They should be able to, speak English and Hindi firstly. They should have played at a certain level and have completed their licenses. If possible, they should have foreign experience to know what the standards abroad are and how they are training them. Majority of our coaches here now that are coming up in India are they're just handing out the licenses. Some of them, majority of them, at least now who have the AFFD in Thane, where I have grown up and seen players come out, majority don't have playing experience. So I think in terms of development, we have to do a lot more to see the youngsters emerge and come out because they are the ones who are going to play the qualifiers. They are the ones who are going to be the future. So we have to encourage them at a young age. I think besides the football arena, I think even our education system is to blame a little bit because our kids spend 9 hours in school, right from 7 in the morning to 2, 3. Then they spend another 2, 3 hours in tuition. So how are we encouraging and integrating sports into our curriculum where we are saying that we want you to give, the same importance as you give to studies in sports as well. So we have to give either leniency or we have to integrate more subjects of sports related, or, we have one class of PE which comes once a week. I'm pretty sure all of you had that in school. So how is that saying that we are encouraging sports people to emerge from our society? Obviously sports requires more commitment because it's physical work. Your education requires mental work, but your physical work requires more rest than your mental work. So how are we as a society encouraging this and saying we want to go into the football arena, or we want to go into the cricket arena? In terms of education, we have to get out that balance. I spoke about development in terms of football. In terms of money that comes in, our let's say our government or our state sports authorities have to pump in that same money like they do in cricket. Sponsors have to be willing to come forward saying that we will send them abroad, we will send them to Spain to play their teams, because everything costs money. So how are we going to tackle that issue? People have to invest more in other sports besides cricket. I'm pretty sure kabaddi and badminton and lawn tennis, all of these areas must be thinking the same thing. So I think once we get all of that on a consistent basis for all our age groups, right till U17, U18, U20s, that's when you can see our senior team, because these are the guys who are going to go into the senior team and play. And that's when we will be able to qualify. So hopefully in 20, 25 years.
Great. I'm sure a lot of a lot of people sitting out here, their kids would be a part of it, probably.
Definitely.
So there's also one thing, that have always been a lot of people always ask, okay, that is cricket versus football. Okay. How do you think, over here, at least in India, cricket is God, people who are actually playing cricket over here are God. Okay. So how do you think that impacts, cricket versus football comparison?
I think it's a difficult question because people who love cricket will still play cricket. People who love football will still play football. One aspect that I have noticed is cricket has more competition as well because everyone's trying to play cricket. Football in comparison to cricket has lesser competition. But if you look at the monetary value, in cricket you earn way more than what you earn in football. Even if you're playing Ranji Trophy, for Santosh Trophy in football, you barely get paid anything. For a Ranji Trophy, a player can get 10 lakhs for playing for 3-4 months. And even if you make it to that Ranji level and you play, you're guaranteed a job. So it depends of how players look at it. For me, I saw the money. I said, yeah, cricket has money. But as an athlete, for me, cricket was not engaging enough. Either you're batting, so when you're batting, you're involved, or if you're bowling, the rest of the time you're standing around waiting for the ball to come to you. So for me, that was not, attractive enough, and I wanted to be running all the time as a kid. Now, when you're coming to professional, obviously we're having workouts where we are doing sprints and we're doing cardio work, and they're measuring how much we run, and that's not the fun stuff. But as a kid, you look at it as, where am I going to have fun? I can chase the ball everywhere. I can go wherever I want. And, for 45 minutes, no one is disturbing me. But now it's a lot more of endurance work. It's not like just fun running. It's more tactical and more productive for the team. So I think that's where cricket and football mainly would, I would say, be comparing each other. One is the money value, and the second is the competition value. So yeah, you earn higher money, but you're also facing higher competition. Um, Besides that, I mean, yeah, because cricket has more money poured into it, you have the IPL, which is more glamorous, which is more, again, it's all related to money.
Correct, correct, correct. So that's really great. One last thing from me would be, how is viewership, affected? Like, for an example, I saw an interview wherein Cristiano Ronaldo told that, the fans are actually the heartbeat. Whenever you're actually running, the fans actually tell you, how can you? They actually boost your confidence whenever you are in the field. Although none of us out here would have experienced it, but I'm sure you would have. So how does that affect, on field, off field, viewership, people talking about football or ISL for that matter? How does that affect?
I think they always say the fans are the 12th man, and of course, this time in this season, we won't get to feel the atmosphere in the stadiums because they're going to be empty. But I think really when you're playing in a stadium packed with 60,000, 80,000 people, and either they're chanting your name or they're chanting for your club or for the team you're playing, I think when you're on the field, you feel like going an extra mile. Even if it's the 90th minute, if it's extra time, they're always backing you. I think some clubs and some fans have fans that support you even when you lose. They're always supportive and they're like, you'll come back the next game, you will do better. They have that belief in you. There's someone who is there behind you. It's also a very good feeling when you go out into the street and you're maybe at a coffee shop or going for lunch and you meet somebody, who you've never met before, you don't know them personally, but just because your interaction and your connection through football has brought you all to a place, you all meet a new person, they want to take a picture with you, you feel that sense of belonging to the community. They come and watch your games and they like what you do, they like your profession. I think that gets you to meet new people, to share your story. I think in Calcutta, when I played with Mohan Bagan, those are one of the harshest fans that you will face in Kolkata because they are really passionate. So if you do well, you are God. And if you don't do so well, then you will face the brunt of it. So I think that's how football has always been, and that's how it should be. Um, but yeah, the players, the fans, the management, these are all part of the game. And when you do well, they are always behind you. Um, when you're not doing so well, they are there to back you up. So I think that support, that understanding, that respect, which you get as a player, as a professional sports person, because what the fans and what everyone else sees on TV is only the end product. They don't see what goes on the field. They don't
Yeah.
see your setbacks, your injuries, how many hours you put in, what all food and what all places are going out you sacrifice, sleeping at 10 o'clock
Right.
every day. There's no parties, there's no alcohol, there's no fried stuff, all of that. So there's a lot of commitment, there's a lot of sacrifice that an athlete makes. But um, so there's a picture that goes in my psychology class, which I'm taking. It's a picture of the iceberg, where the people only see the top part of the iceberg, and they don't see anything below the sea level. So everything that's going on, under the water, which is the major part, and you only see the top of the iceberg, which is the small part of the result. So
Right.
that is the explanation of how an athlete's success, or not athlete, but anyone, you're not seeing the hard work put into it, and it's very evident in sports because everyone only tunes in for the game time. You're not seeing the hours they put in that week for training, or the injuries they've got, and they probably come back after 2 months. All of that. Um, so yeah, that is how fans are. That is how the sport is, and that is how it will always be.
Just because you told us about Mohan Bagan again.
the fans. So I'm sure you would have received a lot of positive feedback from a lot of different fans, DMs, and a lot of things. But anything that you would like to share, anything negative or constructive feedback that you would have gotten after a game?
I think that's always there. I mean, I don't
Maybe
remember
maybe a
anything.
maybe a funny story out of it, something where which will actually make us also all light a little before we
There's
open to questions from everyone.
there's nothing specific. I'll tell you why. Because one is some of the players actually take it to heart, but our social media again is just a peripheral version of what we are doing. So that you can engage with us, on a more superficial level. Yeah, you are allowed to comment whatever you want. There are people who will be commenting nonsense. There are people who will support you and say, okay, no problem, we believe in you, XYZ. But as an athlete, as a professional over the years, I've learned, to not put so much emphasis on this. And yeah, we acknowledge the positives. We work on the negatives, but we don't get into an argument on social media about performance. And because sometimes your coach requires you to do a certain job on the field, and that is what you do. Maybe that's not what the fan wants. He wants to see you maybe score a goal, and your coach is giving you a responsibility of running around behind one person. So
Correct.
there are a lot of tactics involved. There is a lot of what your responsibility is on the field. That may disappoint some people. It might be applauded by some people. So you're always going to find people who are happy with you, people who are unhappy with you, and um, as an athlete, we or as a normal person, you can't please everyone. You have to choose and be wise about who you're pleasing. So right now, my responsibility, my job requires me to be honest and dedicated with my club, with my coaching staff, and honest to my teammates. So that is where my priority lies. And for the result of the club and for um, the camaraderie of my teammates, I'm going to be doing what role is expected of me on that particular day in that game. So whether
Correct.
XYZ people might like it or not like it, I cannot do anything about it because um, I am attached with my club. They are the ones who are paying my salary. I have worked hard for my teammates. Those are the ones I'm going to be playing for. Those are the players that I'm going to have my back for. So
Correct.
that
Correct.
is something you understand at a professional level. And for me, because I have played outside of India, I am studying psychology, and I have worked with kids of different ages. I have the understanding of how it works to be as a fan, to be as a player, to be as a coach, or to be as a parent or whoever you are in the professional arena.
Correct. 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 Thank you so much for all the answers. I'm sure a lot of people are very eager to ask you a few questions. Guys, before you all unmute, you all just have to raise your hand and Rohika will select and you all can personally ask him a questions. Okay. Lewis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So,
Okay.
sure. Can we start with Rudra? Rudra, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, hi. Hi, Rupa.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Hi, Keen. Actually, I just got to know that you were playing for Bangalore FC and it is owned by JSW. I currently work for JSW. My question to you was, do we need more academies like IS that we have in Vijayanagar to bring a culture like you were talking about that we have in US to raise the bar in India?
Yeah, of course.
That's my question.
I think the academy and the structure that is required is needed for all clubs, and I think right now with the ISL and the AFF and FIFA, it is mandatory that you have it. In terms of school and facilities, I think again they need to have all this facilities so that the players can grow from a young age. Um, if you're talking about JSW, to be honest, they have the best facility I have seen in India in Bellary, state of
Yeah,
the
right.
art.
Yes.
They have some of the best equipment, which is not even introduced in any other places in India, and they're only available abroad. Personally, I've played in BFC for 2 seasons, so I've gone for pre-season to Bellary, and And that just, I mean, that is just what an athlete would want. That is just what we
Mhm.
want as players. If you can provide us with that kind of a facility, if every club can provide that facility to their athletes, I think they will have much more better advantage in terms of competition, in terms of performance.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. We can have Naveen. In the interest of time, let's keep our questions short. So Naveen, you can go next.
Yeah, hello, sir. What I feel is
Hello.
key. The second biggest sport in India right now is football. Like the way football is growing in
Hmm.
India is it's going like crazy. The younger generations are more adaptive to football. So don't you
Right.
think cricket sometimes overpowers it just because cricket requires less infrastructure and sort of less investment because football requires you a good playground, you need a lot of stuff, you need to be fit and so many things. So what do you think when will this gap of cricket and football come together? Like there is a decent enough gap.
See, the gap is there because I'll tell you, I feel this is why I feel there are um, India does well in cricket, so everyone wants to watch cricket. India is in the top three always in terms of national team. Um, but what I feel maybe they're not looking at is um, out of how many teams are we competing? We're competing maybe out of 20 teams in the world. If you look at football, played by over 250 countries in the world, and there we rank around 104 or something. So uh, in terms of that comparison, obviously we're not at that level in terms of European clubs or in terms of um, UK clubs. So how the only way you can bridge the gap is by putting in more time and money into football. Um, yeah, in one aspect, we require more space for football. We require, I wouldn't say a lot of investment because we need just a football to play. But for constructive and development football, yes, you require hurdles, you require goalposts, you require poles, all of that. Um, in terms of cricket, I'm not aware of what all they use, but in terms of just a batsman's equipment, it's much more than football because you have to invest in the bat, in the season ball, in your pads, all of that. In football, it's just shin guards, studs, and the ball. So and that is one ball you can be playing between 22 people. So um, in terms of bridging the gap, it's more of a development question because when is football going to be equivalent to cricket is when the national team comes into the top 50 of the world, like how cricket is in like top three. Because that is how Indians are looking at it. It's more like, oh, cricket, India is between Australia, India, and New Zealand. In football, you have 100 teams before us. So how are you assessing, where we stand? So which is why the support is not coming that much for other sports other than cricket.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Right. Next, we'll have Safa.
Hi. So after hearing all this, I
Mhm.
just wanted to ask personally, who has been your inspiration throughout your journey?
Personally, as in a sports person or just a regular person?
I mean, both like parent support also because you told me you're doing psych also, so you understand
Mhm.
the hurdles that come in, changing the mindset of people as well. Plus, in as sports, as a sports person.
As a sports person, I always grew up looking, um, like I said, we didn't have ISL at that point, and I didn't follow Indian football because they didn't telecast it so well. So I always followed EPL, and I grew up watching Steven Gerrard and just his games, and more it was more that time at how players play, their game style, all of that. And even till today, if you ask me, everybody has what their favorite team is. I don't have a favorite team because uh, I mean, in India, I have a favorite team, but if you everyone will say oh Barcelona or they'll say Manchester United, but for me it is what is your real connection with the team? We sitting here, I can just pick any team. Why is it Manchester United? Why is it Chelsea? What is your personal connection with them? You like their players, you like that city. What is it? So for me, it is more about now. If you ask me, my favorite team is Liverpool, But why? It is because of their game style. I have nothing to do with the city. I have nothing to do with the club. I've never been to, I mean, I've been to Liverpool, but I've never met any of the players, nothing. So the association is more with the style of their game. Certain players that they play in my position. So I like to watch them play and I try to learn from them. So Steven Gerrard was one of the players I grew up watching because at that point in school I played as a centre midfielder and he was a centre midfielder and which is why even today one of my the reasons one where my jersey is number 8 is because Steven Gerrard was always number 8. So which is why all my clubs usually I have number 8. In my regular life, I always looked up to my parents obviously, and also like I said, my principal. He was one of the ones who started to encourage me to go outside, to expand and learn outside of what I had in the city. So those were my major uh, you know people who I learned from. Most recently, I played with Sunil Chetri. So right now, if you ask all the young upcoming kids, they all want to play with Chetri. They all want to play with Gurpreet, and I got to play with them, train with them every day. And I think for anybody young who are getting into the football field or being part of the journey as an athlete, as a footballer, I think there was a lot to learn from Chetri, from Gurpreet. Um, you know, they played abroad like I have. Chetri's played in Lisbon. He's played in Kansas. Gurpreet's played in, I think, Sweden, if it's not mistaken. Stuybeck. Yeah. So there was a lot to learn from their journeys, and those are some of the players that I look up to and players that I can always learn from. It's not necessary that I'm fixed on one person and then that person is like rest of the life that is the person I'm going to be with. But it's more about people who I can learn from, people who help me grow as a person, and besides psych, I do a lot of other educational things also. So that is just part of how I feel you should keep growing as an athlete.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Right, can we take one last question as it's almost 8? Do you have
Sure.
the for one more?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Right, so can Tejas ask his question?
Uh, Hi, Ken. And so there are a lot of clubs, like you mentioned, in Europe, which have dedicated academies that takes guys and girls from the age of 8 and then develop them, like Dortmund and West Ham are well known for this. In India, there is a lack of academic football academies training them. That is the reason, a lot of people are not, like children are not aware that this is the part. They know that 10th to 12th to college to postgrad to job, that is the only ladder that they have known. But like even in cricket there are academies, like there is MCC and the others. So uh, how do children navigate this academic, and if that what are the things that you will recommend, and how do you think it should develop in the future for us?
I think that is one of the tough aspects of living in India, because we put so much emphasis on studies, that we've developed academies for technology, academies for engineering, and for IIS and IIM and all of these things. But um, I think we have to do the same for sports, not just for football, but for any other sport. And if now the issue that most of the kids face, even I faced as a kid, is my school is in Thane, but if the academy is in Pune, how do I go to school daily and commute to Pune? So I think that is one of the toughest, questions. You have to be lucky enough to be saying, okay, I want to be an athlete, and I am going to a school which is close to my house, and also the academy is close to my house. Otherwise it becomes a very difficult task, which is why I said. Um, the athletes who want to pursue these dual careers, which means as a student or and as an athlete, have to be willing to get out of their comfort zone. So tomorrow, if say I live in Thane and my school is in Thane and the academy is in Pune, I have to decide and say, look, I'm going to leave Thane. I'm going to go to Pune because the academy is there and there's no academy in Thane, but I can find another school in Pune, which is close. So I have to then navigate around that and say, let's figure that out. But again, we have um, players and athletes that come from a wide range of backgrounds and cultures. Some can afford it, some can't afford it. So uh, again, now for that, I think the government has to step in and give a lot of help, and they do it. In fact, in fact, 2 days ago, we had the chief minister of Delhi come here and say and tell us that they are allocating a certain amount of funds for these players from certain backgrounds, for people who are under a certain family annual income. So that's how they have to navigate. Again, those who can do it by themselves have to be willing to step out and do it. Like when I had the opportunity to play in TFA, I was there in TFA throughout the year, but I took admissions in a college in near to my house, and then you fill out like whatever the correspondence forms, and then you say, okay, I will come back for exams. You give the exams and then you go back to train. So if you can have the understanding between your academy and your school and your academy and your college, I think that provision has to be made so that the athletes can still pursue their sport as well as complete their education. So even what I even encourage my athletes or my friends or my um, teammates to do is do a course, study, make sure you're learning, make sure you have something to do post your football career, or at least simultaneously, so you're not wasting your time when you're off the field. But also, to answer your question, I think athletes have to get out of their comfort zone, as well as more academies have to be built so that players have the opportunity to not have to travel to entire another state to go and acquire that training.
Thanks. Tejas, do you want to?
Thank you, Nidhi.
Yeah, so for those of you, anybody who has more questions, sorry I don't have the time today, but any of you guys who have more questions can always shoot me a message on Instagram. We'll get back to you with the best possible answer and hopefully answer all of your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Keen. I'm
Welcome.
really happy that we could do this, and I'm sure everybody here has had a good sense of your journey. And
Okay.
there's so much more. I'm sure there's so much more than you just told us
Yeah.
today. But
Yeah,
I'm sure it's always hard to put it into words, and hence the title of the initiative, Journey Beyond Words. So yeah, Adil, would you like to add something?
Yeah, just one last thing, we would love to see a lot of assists from you, and a lot of people over here, the way we all have been following EPL or any other, outside league. I am sure, at least out of 50, 60 people that we were over here, probably, we have reached about 100 people, revolving. So all those people, at least 20 people, a small change, 20 people will start, watching ISL, and that's a request, guys. Let's support made in India, जैसे हमारे मोदी जी बोलते हैं वैसे ही let's do it, and हम लोग हमारे खुद की leagues, we all start promoting, and we'll all be cheering Keen, because we all have personally met you now, we feel like. So yeah, would love to do that. And just one last word, if you can just say something about Rotract. That's all.
So I'd like to thank Rotrack for the opportunity to be able to share my journey. And since you guys are based out of Thane, hopefully in another 3-4 months when I am in off season, we can interact. Actually, Rotrack can become interact in person. So thank you so much, and hope to see you
100%.
guys.
Thank you so much, Keen, for everything that you have put up. I know we started late, but then you managed, and you have a very busy schedule. There's
No
also a
problem.
match that is going on. I'm sure you would also love to
Yeah.
watch that. So
Yeah, sure.
we were also getting notification out here. So it would not take a lot of your time. Thank you so much. Do
All right.
stay in
Thank you.
touch.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Everybody
Yeah.
for
Bye
coming.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you everybody who came here today.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Everyone send a request to Keen. फिर यहाँ पे 3-4 लोग जो कैमरा चालू किए उनको भी भेज देना. ये awkward silence होता है ना, बस वही निकाल रहा हूँ.
हाँ दिख रहा है आदिल. You can follow Adil on Instagram, Finding Momos, the cute host for today.
I didn't know, this was the black light आ रहा था. I wanted to turn around and sit, but then.
ठीक है, it's not like a problem.
Thank you, Viral Vision, for being here.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Best internship, best interns.
Okay, everybody who's not Adil or Pranod can start leaving.
They should be. I'll start removing people from the call because
now we know how many people have actually just kept their phone. I don't know where they are.
बहुत सारे.
अपूर्वा का हाथ अभी भी ऊपर ही है.